All right. Well, we've got 12:02, so we're going to go ahead and get started. But thank you again for joining us for our first ever Palsy Iclap Awards and Community Recognition Ceremony. So just once again, this is Jill Morris, Executive Director of Palsy. I'm going to go ahead and turn my video on, so hopefully you all can see me. And today we've got kind of a special event to help us wrap up our 2020 member meeting series. This idea came forward from the membership itself to help us celebrate the wonderful people inside of this community. And we're just so thrilled to be able to do that today. We are recording today's session so that we can share it out with folks afterward. Please feel free to chime in the chat if there's anything that you want to also shout out in terms of appreciation for your colleagues. Just to get us started here, I want to say thank you again to our sponsors who made this member meeting event series possible and who also sponsored some fun prizes for those community award winners today. So thank you to EBSCO and ProQuest for sponsoring this series of events. We're really grateful. And if you get a moment, you see your rep, please do reach out and say thank you to them as well to help let them know that we appreciate their ongoing sponsorship of Palsy events. Next, I will just quickly mention that we have a Palsy Code of Conduct in place for all virtual and in-person events, as well as online communications. And we just want to point it out that it's available for you to read on the Palsy website if you visit palsy.org/conduct. All right, so let's get to the meat of today's session, where we're going to be celebrating and recognizing those community members within Palsy who've just done some outstanding work over the course of the last year. And we want to take a moment to have a little bit of fun together and celebrate those individuals who really make Palsy work as a community. So we're going to be recognizing and very quickly noting the achievements and accomplishments of a number of different communities and committees and councils within Palsy, in addition to recognizing our 3 Palsy Award winners for the Iclap Awards. And we'll tell you more about that in just a little bit. So up first, I would like to start by recognizing our member meeting planning committee, which is really the group that helped us kick all of this off. From the very beginning, this group has been very engaged in setting up a series of meetings that would help us to support the community throughout this really challenging time. So this committee was charged with coming up with a meeting theme, thinking about program planning and selection, identifying who we wanted to engage as keynote speakers, and figuring out which topics we needed to address as a community. And this year in particular was challenging because we needed to pivot from our typical in-person meeting to a series of online events. And so this was brand new, sort of entering new territory for Palsy. And I have to say that I think this group really pulled it off and put together some fabulous programming for Palsy members. So I want to give a shout out to everybody here on this list, including Sarah Barron, Ann Krakow, Tim Schlack, Paige Flanagan, Freya Gibbon, and Amy McCall for their work in planning our member meeting events. So thank you to this group. And just as a quick note, the pictures on the screen on the bottom left is Noe Ortega, who's the Deputy Secretary for the Office of Post-Secondary and Higher Education. For those who attended, you may remember that he was our keynote speaker for our business meeting in June. And on the right, top right, is Brian Alexander, who launched a keynote on thriving in a time of disruption in August, sort of our summer speaker event series, which we hope to repeat in coming years. Brian gave an excellent talk on the future of higher education and how libraries, academic libraries in particular, fit into that picture. Up next, I want to recognize and thank our fabulous Palsy Board of Directors. Our board has been incredibly active this year. I think in the first 5 months of the year alone, we had more meetings than we do in a typical 12-month window. This group has just really been watching out for the organization, ensuring that we're on the right track, and making sure that that we're moving forward in the direction that Palsy members need us to go. So I want to give a quick shout out to all of our board of directors members who are listed here: Sarah Barron, Cornelia Tancheva, Scott Anderson, Ann Krakow, Rick Holmgren, Mahoko Hosoi, Boaz Nadav Mains, Danuta Nateski, Tim Schlack. And I also want to give a special shout out to our previous board members who stepped off at the end of last calendar year, Tina Hurdle and Scott Muir. So thank you to all of our board of directors. Next, we want to recognize and give a quick shout out to our future framing task force. And this group was charged by the board. This is a board task force that was charged with coming up with answering some important questions about the future for Palsy, such as what do we value about Palsy? What tensions exist given the diversity of our institutions? And what should Palsy look like in 3 to 5 years? So this group worked incredibly hard from the time that it first got its start in about September of 2019 to develop a set of recommendations. And I'm really pleased to report that the Palsy Board of Directors is going to be looking very intensely at those recommendations in our meeting upcoming tomorrow. And we hope to have more information to share with you shortly, but we wanted to make sure to acknowledge the important strategic work that this group has done in a very short amount of time, and especially given all of the challenges of the last 6 months or so to complete their major deliverable of developing a report for the Palsy board to discuss. And so we're very appreciative of this group of individuals. Thank you to Scott Anderson, Danuta Nateski, Rick Holmgren, and Sarah Barron. Up next, we have a number of board committees that are made up of the members of the board I just mentioned. I'm only going to call out a special attention to a couple of those because they involve members of the Palsy membership at large in addition to Palsy board members. So I'm only going to call attention to those that have some additional membership on them, including the membership committee, which this is the group that is really existing in order to support Palsy membership in a variety of ways, including membership policies and criteria, exploring applications and figuring out whether to admit additional members as they express interest. This group has actually been fairly busy in the last couple of years. We've admitted a couple of new members now, and this year we have admitted, or we're about to discuss admission for Arcadia University, which is again one of those institutions that has applied for Palsy membership and which the Palsy Board of Directors is going to be considering for a vote tomorrow. So we're just very appreciative of the time that these individuals have put into considering Palsy's membership. I want to call a special attention to John Bushman at Seton Hall University, Karen Diaz at West Virginia University, Catherine Furlong at Bucknell University, and Sharon Wiles-Young who at Lehigh University, who have all served on this committee over the course of the last 12 months. The committee changes over on a calendar year basis, and so we've had two folks cycle on and 2 folks cycle off, but a huge thank you to these individuals for supporting Palsy in this way. All right, up next, Palsy deans and directors. So this is a big group of individuals from across the Palsy membership who we want to recognize and call special attention to, especially because of all of the activities of the last 6 months or so. We have just wrapped up now our 21st Palsy Deans and Directors virtual forum on Tuesday, yesterday. We started holding these meetings virtually when the pandemic first hit, and we could tell that we were going to be closing libraries and shutting down a variety of in-person library services. And at that time, we found that there was an interest in facilitating a community of deans and directors so that you could share your questions, your concerns, your ideas with each other. In addition to our 21 virtual meetings, we also held earlier in the year 2 in-person events hosted by Rowan University. Thank you to Rowan. And University of Pittsburgh. Thank you to University of Pittsburgh as well, for allowing our deans and directors to get together and share information and to collaborate with each other. So I want to just call out and acknowledge all of the deans and directors who've participated in these events. We've really enjoyed the conversation and hope that it's been helpful for you all as well. We've had a regular turnout of about 35 individuals showing up to these meetings on a regular basis for the virtual events. And they've been a really great opportunity for sharing information and gaining ideas within the PALCI community. So thank you to all of our PALCI deans and directors and voting representatives. Up next is our Code of Conduct Task Force. We want to acknowledge them. This group, the board charged in June of 2019 to address issues related to equity, diversity, and inclusion. And to describe the way that PALCI members will work together in our consortial environment. And so they were given a charge at that point to develop an environmental scan, look at EDI policies and statements in groups that were similar to PALCI, to figure out some feedback forums and establish different ways of communicating and discussion, facilitating discussion on this topic, to figure out where we wanted to go with our own PALCI Code of Conduct. They gathered input and identified possible related EDI initiatives and goals, and put together a great list of ideas for things that we'll do in the future. In addition, they engaged with experts in EDI. They they designed a workshop for our deans and directors at Rowan University in September, which was held in September of 2019. And all of this work ultimately added up to the development of a PALCI Code of Conduct, a professional code of conduct that was approved by the PALCI board in May of 2020. And since that time, they also proposed a PALCI Conduct Committee, which is a newly charged group that will be appointed. Hopefully tomorrow we'll move through that in our PALCI board meeting in support of the new Code of Conduct. So a huge shout out to the folks on this list: Paige Flanagan, Katie Anderson, Sarah Barron, Barry Chamness, Sarah Clark, Joy Douglas, Scott DeMarco, Ann Houston, Ann Krakow, Cornelia Tancheva, and Tim Schlock for their work in developing a code of conduct that we could approve within their timeline. Again, a very short timeline given to them for completion of this task, and they did it. So congratulations to this group, and many thanks from PALCI. I want to acknowledge our Collections Advisory Council. This is the group that was charged in 2017 with leading PALCI's strategic approach to building collections and access across formats in support of member institutions' learning and research priorities. Leveraging our previous successes in the economy of scale that PALCI offers, the Collections Advisory Council was charged to identify key collection development and management issues that the PALCI community should be addressing, with the overall goal of creating a collective collection or collective collections opportunities for the broader PALCI community. This group looks at collections really holistically, including aspects of resource sharing, collection management, shared print, as well as prospective collection building and looking forward to what we might do in the future. So this group has been incredibly influential in helping us determine what initiatives PALCI takes on in the collection space. And we want to give a very special shout out and thank you to those who have cycled off of the Collections Advisory Council this year, including Charlotte Droll at Bloomsburg, Jeremy Gariskoff at Gettysburg, and Angela Carreño, who was our fearless leader and chair since the beginning. And also a huge shout out to Amy McCall, who was our incoming chair and who is currently serving in that role for this Collections Advisory Council. So huge thank you to Amy McCall, Gita Weinsteger, Therese Heidenwolf, Rick Holmgren, Dan Huer, Erica Linke, Grace Mary Smolitz, and Christina Rose for their work on this committee. Underneath the Collections Advisory Council, in case you weren't aware, we have a couple of different working groups who do a great deal of support for the collections work that PALCI works on. And so we have two. One is the Prospective Collections Working Group, and in a moment I'll tell you about the Retrospective Collections Working Group. The Prospective group works on behalf of all PALCI members to review the offers that we receive from publishers and vendors and make recommendations for licensing and acquisition of new collections and content that we may consider as purchase or subscription. Members are recruited to represent a diverse range of PALCI institutions, as I think you'll see here on this list. And effectively, these members serve as a liaison role for the consortium, bringing their ideas forward and advocating on behalf of the needs of all PALCI members. So this group has been just incredibly helpful in helping us shape what it is that we're able to offer in negotiating with vendors and really giving us the information that the PALCI staff need in order to make things work for you. So thank you to Amy McCall, Angela Crenyo, Angie Straight, Bonnie Powers, Dan Huang, Erica Linke, Grace Marie Smolowitz, and Linda Nair for all of their work here. Retrospective Collections Working Group is a group that supports and maintains a healthy PALCI resource sharing ecosystem, allowing our libraries to make responsible, space-saving decisions over the coming years by building a strong understanding of our changing collections environment. This group focuses on materials in a variety of physical formats and provides reports and makes recommendations to the PALCI Collections Advisory Council. The work that this group is doing is really critical in shaping PALCI's overarching collaborative collection strategies and initiatives that we take on. And I will say that this group has really undertaken a lot of ideas that have risen up from within the PALCI membership to determine, how best we can collaborate together on the items that we already own in our collections and how we can better ensure that our resource sharing ecosystem remains healthy. So huge thank you to Dan Hewer, Therese Heidenwolf, Tom Zaharovich, Sharon Wells-Young, Gita Weinsteiger, Brian Schooler, Christina Rose, Julia Proctor, Rachel Newberry, and Brian Curran. Thank you to all of you for your work on this group. Up next, we have our collections folks to thank. And this group has been getting together through a series of water cooler conversations. We also have an email list support group for folks who are interested in collections issues at the consortial level. And this is a really fabulous place to bring ideas and questions, concerns, and challenges that people are running into related to collections at our individual member library institutions. And we want to thank the folks who have been regular attendees of these conversations. We've held them in an every other week sort of format as an opportunity for people to get together and talk about collections issues. So thank you to everybody who shows up to these conversations and shares what you know with your colleagues. It's certainly been a really eye-opening experience to be able to facilitate this community and hearing, sort of what the challenges are that you're all facing. And this only works because you attend. And so we want to say thank you to those who participate in these conversations. Up next is our Affordable Learning PA community. And for those who don't know, Affordable Learning Pennsylvania, or also known as ALPA, is a community of practice for academic libraries and higher education partners to advance textbook affordability for our students through education, collaboration, and advocacy at the state level to support open education in Pennsylvania. ALPA leads programs that create awareness, build expertise for community-led OER initiatives, and promotes best practices and collaboration throughout the community. We provide a consortial membership in the Open Textbook Network through PALCI, and we support libraries' leadership in the development and use of open textbooks and related content throughout our region. PALCI serves as the fiscal agent for the ALPA project, which is funded in part by LSTA funds through the Office of Commonwealth Libraries. So here we would like to say a huge shout out and thank you to the leaders of this community who really take it upon themselves to make sure that this is a vibrant community that's able to support our work in this space. Thank you to Stephen Bell, Charlotte Droll, Rebecca Miller-Waltz, and Brian McGeary, Barb Zaborowski, Sarah Green, Carol Sufert, Sarah Myers, Stephanie Panucci, Lauren Irvin, Sarah Parmy, Shana Hollick, and Dana Mastriani at Chatham. So thank you to this wonderful group of leaders. There are many more leaders within the ALPA community who have stepped into working group roles planning the ALPA Summit, which is currently underway. And if you have any questions about getting involved in this one, I would encourage you to reach out to Allison at palsy.org, and she can help connect you in. But this has just been a really a huge pleasure for us to be able to run this project in this community and help facilitate it. So thank you to this group of leaders. Up next, I'm going to share some of the kudos with James. James, would you go ahead and take on the next one?
Not a problem. Thank you, Jill, and thank you to everybody, all the individuals and all the groups that Jill mentioned, for all of your contributions to the Palsy community, and to the specific circles that you run in as far as the sub-communities here within Palsy. It's my honor, it's my privilege to be able to talk a little bit about Palsy's resource sharing communities, which are near and dear to me, not just because that's what I help support primarily as a Palsy staff member, but it's also where I got my start within libraries and how I first connected with the Palsy community myself. So it's wonderful that now I get to support this group in a different way, and that I get to be able to take some time to thank both individuals and the community as a whole for all they do for each other, for the Palsy community. First, I'd like to start by saying thank you and a huge thanks, and give many applauses that would be given in person, but since everybody is muted, you'll just have to imagine them, to our Easy Borrow Advisory Council. This is a group that they, in small ways and large ways, are always looking for how to increase the Easy Borrow service. In a lot of ways, they serve as guinea pigs for new updates and new initiatives from OCLC that runs the Relay D2D service that drives Easy Borrow. They're always looking for ways to not just improve the Easy Borrow service, but looking for ways to really enrich and improve communication and participation and inclusion within the Easy Borrow and really the resource sharing community within Palsy. And really, especially in a year like this, really stepped up and were a resource to the community as Easy Borrow practitioners and ILO practitioners were looking to make COVID contingency plans and figuring out the messaging about that with regards to our service, and planning meetings to bring that community together so that they could discuss the issues that they were facing at their institutions. So this group made up of, depending on the year, 9 to 10 Easy Borrow practitioners and leaders and supporters at their individual institutions of the Easy Borrow service. These are different members from the community itself that kind of help guide those initiatives and help provide some leadership to this group. So big thank you to our current members, Caitlin Kinamui from Seton Hall, Andy Tulos from the New School, Meg Massey from Penn State, Phoebe Walker from NYU, and Kate Wenger from Chatham. And I especially, I know some of them aren't here today and cannot be here today, but I want to give a big shout out to those members who have also stepped down from the council. This includes, even though he's still there as a past chairperson, Andy Tulos, who was our, as listed there, our past chair. Andy, from a personal standpoint, I always have really enjoyed Andy. A fun story I have about him is that when I first started at Temple and I'd only been there for a couple months, it had been my first position within a library, full-time position within a library. I got the opportunity to go to New York to view the libraries of NYU and the New School on a, because they were hosting Palsy members to kind of say, here we are, and we're proud to be new members of Palsy, and here are kind of our Easy Borrow operations. And during the walk from NYU's library to the New School, Andy and I struck up our conversation. It was one of the first conversations I had face-to-face with anybody with the Palsy community, and we talked about music and baseball and occasionally interlibrary loan as well. But as somebody who, again, was just starting out, even in this field, he provided kind of that friendly face and that friendly welcoming to the community, which is all the more impressive when you think that he was new to Palsy too at the time. And I think it just shows you what this community values and how we champion that kind of inclusion and warmth throughout all that we do. Andy provided a lot of great guidance to this group over the past 2 years as he served as chair, bringing in some different structure, really pushing the group to move forward and think about what we could do to challenge ourselves and improve the service in the community. So a big thank you to him for his work as chairperson. And I definitely want to acknowledge the contributions of Megan Blount, Beth Farbar, Kenneth Fisher, and Freya Gibbon, who are no longer on the council, but were excellent contributors for the time that they served. And again, specifically in this particular time, with these four, their terms they knew were ending or coming close to an end in June of this past year. And despite that, when we got together in June, they saw that there was a real need for this community to come together and talk about what they were facing with the height of the COVID crisis, and with libraries being shut down and what they were facing at their institutions. And they all, these four members, knowing that they had already served 3 years or were getting ready to move on to other opportunities, stuck around late, stayed after their terms, came around to planning meetings to put together an Easy Bar practitioners series of events in July that would give those staff a space to talk about what they were facing and to help each other through that moment, and to share ideas for how they could improve services or keep departments open, keep staff around. They really went above and beyond what we ask of council members to help the community in this time. So a big thank you to them for all their hard work and contributions to the community. Jill, if you can move on. Thank you so much. And finally, before I cede to our next presenter, I want to share from the bottom of my heart a big thank you to the entire resource sharing community here within Palsy. This is a group that, in the best of times, they are inviting and helpful and always quick to answer questions for each other, and always quick to share ideas and resources with each other. Just wanting to do whatever they can to help each other and to make the Palsy, make patrons wherever they might be attending within the Palsy community, wherever they might be a patron of within the Palsy community, give them the best experience possible. And in a time like this, which it's an understatement to say that it's been a unique and challenging time, but it's no less true. They've just doubled down on that. They have continued to do, like I said, what they've always done with sharing resources and support. They've really provided emotional support to each other in a time when everybody could use a little bit more of that. And they've been actively engaging with each other through mailing lists, through the resource sharing community connects that we've been holding on a bi-weekly basis. And again, always looking for ways that they can help improve themselves and improve each other and support each other wherever they can. These are 2 photos from the last 2 Easy Bar practitioners meetings that have been held at Dickinson College. Hopefully someday soon we'll be able to add another one to this batch, even though we weren't able to do that this year. But yes, just a big thank you to everybody who takes place in the resource sharing community within Palsy. Like I said, we have mailing lists, we have community connects events that we've been hosting, and if you're more interested in participating in any of those, both of those are open to everybody. You don't need to be a strict ILL practitioner in order to attend or be a part of any of those. Please reach out to me at james@palsy.org, and I'll be happy to get you involved in those groups. Thank you so much. And I'm going to turn it over now to Gretchen Giggin, who's going to talk a little bit to start off with our Haiku product management.
Hi, I think I joined without signing into Zoom, so I can't turn my camera on, but I am here, and I even cleaned up my office a little bit, just so you know. That's how much I appreciate everybody who worked on this group. So the Haiku product management group worked with myself and Amanda Herford at PALCI, our partnering consortium on this project. So the product management group, kind of what they really did was help us identify use cases and needs for what the Haiku software needed to do. And that was really crucial in helping us figure out kind of the biggest thing that we're hoping to do with this project, which is to make it a lot more flexible to be able to use it for more than just institutional repositories, which is what it's kind of ideally set up for at the moment. So R.C. Meisler from Gettysburg, Ed Zimmerman from IUP, Chris Creswell from Lehigh, Alan Jones at New School, and Christine Davidian at Rowan all gave us very helpful feedback and are still on the line for giving us more feedback as we develop more things. But that group was heavily indebted to a previous IR task force that actually was before my time at PALCI. So I just wanted to add their names to this list. So RC and Alan were both on this group, but in addition, Sarah Myers from Messiah, Linda Poston from Messiah, and Keiko Suzuki from the New School were really crucial in that first task force that helped us initially identify what should be done on that project. So thank you to all of them for participating. And I'm also going to take a moment to thank our reshare piloters who haven't yet begun in earnest, but are already very valuable to our efforts. So we are going to start piloting the reshare software starting next week. And we have 4 schools that are going to do the piloting and another who has been part of the process of designing this project. So the following people at each of these institutions have been crucial in helping us figure out how to pilot this software and how to implement it, and helping us identify the issues and the workflows and ways. We'll be working with all of you in the future to get you integrated into this new software. So Krista Hyam has been key in helping us chair actually and be part of the planning group with those of us at PALCI and Index Data for the overall project. And within our pilot schools, Scott Anderson at Millersville, Alan Jones, Melanie Mabey, and Andrew Tulos at the New School, Joe Idell, Justin Hill, Carly Husted, David Lacey, and Holly Tomrin have all contributed from Temple. Ryan Fino, Caitlin Kanamui, and Elizabeth Leonard at Seton Hall, and Sharon Wiles-Young at Lehigh have all helped us to bring this project together. And I think it's going to have a big impact on everybody in PALCI in the coming year. So thank you very much. Your efforts are very, very much appreciated.
All right, so thank you, everybody. Now we've gone through, as you've heard, 30 minutes of thanks to just a wide variety of participants within the PALCI community on many, many different committees, councils, working groups, task forces, pilot groups. And I think, you know, the takeaway for me and our staff as we were thinking about what do we say today and how do we thank these individuals was just how deeply engaged the PALCI community is in support of its of your colleagues, in support of each other, and really invested in the success of everybody who is a part of this community. And I think that's something to really be celebrated. And we can't say thank you enough to these groups, but also to PALCI members who contribute to these conversations conversations in every small way. It really makes so much of a difference to us. We feel the passion that comes from our member institutions and from the staff there. We are excited always about the ideas that you bring to us, and we're just so thrilled to be able to recognize a portion of our community today with this event. So up next, what we would like to do is move on to our sort of formal portion of this Community Awards recognition, to celebrate some folks who were nominated for awards by their colleagues. So this is Palsy's first Iclap Awards ceremony. And for those who haven't noticed, Iclap is Palsy spelled backwards. We came up with sort of a corny way of developing a set of awards to recognize some community members for their excellent contributions. And so this event was really designed to allow you as Palsy members to nominate your colleagues for anything that you really wanted to nominate them for, whether somebody went above and beyond for you on a project that you were working on locally, or you saw them doing something that was working on behalf of the entire community. So we really want to be sure to acknowledge those folks who were nominated here today, and we'll do so in just a moment. We also, though, want to say a quick thank you to all of the folks who did nominate people for these awards as well. You're going to hear from some of those folks today who are actually going to read their nominations for those who were nominated. Lastly, I want to say a huge thank you to the Palsy community. We had several nominations come in for Palsy staff to win these awards. I want to quickly say that Palsy staff are not eligible, and we are flattered and very much appreciative of the fact that you wanted to recognize us as well, and thank you for that. Today is really all about you, and we want to ensure that we spend our time, the bulk of our time, celebrating our Palsy members who we so appreciate. But we did just want to acknowledge and thank those who put in recommendations that we also nominate Palsy staff members, fabulous staff. And I'm so personally appreciative for James Robinson, Gretchen Gigan, and Allison Bradley. Without them, you know, this work just wouldn't happen, and they put their drive and energy into their work every day, and I know all of you see that work too, as evidenced by the nominations that we received. So unfortunately, Palsy staff and family members are not eligible for these these awards. However, we do want to go ahead and get to the nominations that were received by a group of nominators who will you know, recognize their specific nominee in just a moment. As sort of a surprise in terms of what these award winners will receive, of course they'll receive recognition in this event today, but we also do have, thanks to our sponsorships, a $100 Visa gift card that will be awarded to each of these award winners today. So without further ado, we'll move forward and go ahead and start to recognize these folks. So up first, I'm going to turn it over to Janelle Wurzberger. And Janelle, can we hear you? I'm just going to do a quick mic check.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I nominated my colleague, Clint Boggess. I'm sure on your campus, the same thing happened that happened on our campus this summer, which was everybody was in a total frenzy trying to get faculty ready to teach online to the extent that would be necessary in the fall after our kind of emergency teaching online in the spring. But Clint turned his eye towards his fellow librarians and thought about the best way to get us ready to teach online. So this is what I wrote in my nomination. Clint Boggess organized excellent and timely online training for Gettysburg librarians this summer. The series contained 9 helpful sessions covering best practices, technology tools, and pedagogical skills for librarians teaching information literacy skills in an online environment. He and others shared knowledge about e-learning best practices, accessibility for online content, open pedagogy, online teaching with primary source objects, and online formative assessment, as well as useful tools like LibWizard, Zoom, Jamboard, Padlet, and more. The sessions were participatory, relevant, and joyful. I appreciate Clint, who works diligently and creatively to support student learning at Gettysburg College.
Thank you so much, Janelle, and congratulations to Clint, who we are all joining you in recognizing for his efforts, and we're really excited to be able to celebrate his work. So thank you so much, Janelle, for reading that. Clint, congratulations. We're just thrilled to be able to celebrate you. Great. All right, up next, we have another nominator who will be reading her nomination, Catherine Furlong.
Thank you so much, Jill. And actually, I've paused there for a minute. Jill Hallam-Miller is unfortunately not with us today to accept this award, but I'll happily share what I wrote. Jill has been supporting Palsy's Affordable Learning PA program by serving as a member of the program's first cohort of Open Educational Resources Specialists. Jill's commitment and vision for OER led to the development of a full slate of community resources for open education advocates. Jill also organized the Central Pennsylvania Regional Open Textbook Workshop on Wednesday, March 11th, held here at Bucknell, and I think that was the very last thing we did on this campus before we shut down. The workshop featured speakers from community colleges, liberal arts colleges, and a state system university, all of whom shared their experiences and expertise on what worked, what didn't work, which is often the way we learn the most, and where we are now as we're implementing open textbook initiatives on our campuses and across the country. So Jill knows she won this, but she's actually moderating a panel for the Affordable Learning Summit at this same time. So she's not here, but I think it is fitting that one of our award winners for community contributions is too busy contributing to the community to attend the event, awarding her for her contributions to the community.
Thank you, Catherine. We join you in congratulating Jill Hallam-Miller for this award. She's been an amazing contributor, and as you say, she is off doing that important work right this moment. So we apologize for the conflicts of schedule. Unfortunately, there are only so many hours in the day to hold some of these meetings, and but we mean the congratulations no less. We're just so excited to be able to celebrate Jill and her contributions. So thank you, and thank you to Catherine for that nomination. All right, and we have one more final award to announce, and I'm going to turn it over next to Sharon Wiles-Young.
Thank you, Jill. And I'd like to read this nomination that came from my colleague Chulin Meng and me. And it's an exercise in brevity, since the form would only allow us to do 700 characters. But James pointed out to me this morning that I went over into the comments and figured a way around to get more information into the form. But anyway, let me read the nomination for Michelle. Michelle is an outstanding colleague and a talented senior analyst on the Lehigh technology team. She developed the Folio NSIP module for the Folio platform to connect resource sharing systems like Palsy, Easy Borrow service. She also worked on Project Reshare to integrate the NSIP services into the Reshare platform. And last month, just last month, on August 17th, Michelle was instrumental in leading Lehigh's successful migration to Folio. At Lehigh, Michelle has collaborated with library staff to develop tools that help us to serve our patrons. For example, Michelle created the Matchmark tool that uses WorldCat API to automate the process of identifying best matching OCLC records and automate our processes. She also developed the library lost item application that dramatically cut down the turnaround time it takes us to review and replace missing items. So I'd like to thank Palsy for this award and to congratulate Michelle. Thank you.
And we'll just add our thanks to Lehigh and to Michelle for her contributions. I've had the pleasure of seeing her work in action in relationship to the Reshare project as we've been pushing forward on getting that platform ready to go for Palsy's use. And Michelle's contributions have gone far beyond Palsy into the community. And so I know that I'm not speaking out of turn when I add my thanks, as well as the thanks of all of the consortia involved in the Project Reshare initiative to Michelle for her specific contributions there. So we are just really honored to be able to offer an award to Michelle for her contributions in this space, and really grateful to you, Sharon, for letting us know about all of the wonderful things that Michelle is working on at Lehigh.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right. So our 3 award winners, as I said, will receive $100 Visa gift cards sponsored by ProQuest and EBSCO. So thank you to them for those prizes that we're able to celebrate and recognize these 3 specific award winners this year. We do hope to do this again in the future. And so we hope that you'll keep this in mind as a way to recognize your colleagues in your institutions and people who you see going above and beyond for their community. We have so many folks within Palsy, as I mentioned earlier, who are just doing that and able to bring their very best to the table in support of not only their own institution, but their colleagues, and caring about others in other institutions as well. And I think that's something that makes this community within Palsy really special. So my thanks to everybody who was recognized on these various lists today. I know we had to go through them relatively quickly, but we're just so appreciative of all of the work that our Palsy members do on a day-to-day basis. It just wouldn't work without you. So with that, we're now ready to go ahead and wrap up our Palsy member meeting event. We've gone through all of our panels for this session for the year, and we look forward to doing this again next year. We're not sure yet whether that will be in person or a virtual meeting or some combination therein, but in any case, we're really excited to engage with you throughout the coming year. So if you missed any of our sessions on the Palsy member meeting event schedule, please check out the recordings. They're all available inside of the Sched calendar, as well as the Palsy YouTube channel. We've got links to all of these documents, and James and I will make sure that we are distributing all of them out to all of you after this event today. And that's a wrap. That's it for today. So thank you to all of you for joining us, and we hope to see you again really soon. Thanks, everybody. Take care, and congratulations.